Oh, by the way, this stream is being sponsored by Pat Connolly Tavern, located at the corner of Oakland and Tam in beautiful Dogtown. More beautiful than the outlook for St. Louis City, anyway. They are a city on tap bar, so you can watch St. Louis City continue to disappoint and break your hearts and get shit faced at the same time. Pat Connolly Tavern. Hi, it's me. This won't be a player rankings because I think this is one of those nights where it's a little bigger than individual players and putting them on a tier maker and trying to figure out who's great and who was not great. I did think Tomas Ostrak was great tonight. He probably had his best game ever. Yeah, that's fair. Akil Watts is the drizzling shits. And whether it's Olaf or his Bosnian minion in his place tonight, and they insist that there is no other answer at right wing back except Akil Watts. Although we did get to see Joey Zielinski today, and I thought he looked decent in relief. I thought John De Silva had his moments. Celio Pompeu, probably would have put him in good if I did rankings. Cedric Toyshirt, the luckiest goal on the face of this earth, and hides the fact that he did not have a great game tonight. Joao Klaus was mostly invisible. Not necessarily his fault, just, wasn't. Both Watts and Seti were having a competition on who could complete the least amount of passes this game. And I haven't checked the FOD mob to see who actually won that. Watts was a loser today, just in general, so we'll just give it to him. Josh Yarrow didn't even piss me off tonight. I don't think any of the goals were directly his fault. I'm just kind of tired of seeing him. Kyle Heber did nothing wrong tonight from what I could tell, but how do those two even have legs at this point? They've played so much soccer, and it's no wonder we can't hold a lead when we are running the same cast of characters into the ground game after game after game after game. We finally saw Jake Girdwood Reich today. Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. He does exist, it turns out. I know, I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked and flabbergasted. But this is kind of where we are at right now. So, hello, everyone. I'm just kind of trying to gather the words and the thoughts in my head right now because the long drive home, and it was a long drive because turns out St. Louis University, in their infinite wisdom, they have graduation on a Wednesday fucking night. And I know from experience in working in the St. Louis University athletics department that they give zero shits what else is going on in town. They will book primetime shit to go right alongside your favorite sport or your favorite event, and they don't give a shit because they're St. Louis University and you're not. My anger's not at St. Louis University tonight. I just was inconvenienced by trying to get home, and they had Grand blocked off because of the graduation getting out at the same time. Just expert planning. Wonderful, wonderful planning. Drew, I'm getting there. Although I'm honestly kind of more worried that I'm numb at this. I'm getting kind of numb to this, and maybe just talking this out will make me feel better or make me feel worse. Catching up to some comments here. I did throw out a couple invites to some guests. One of them is currently waiting right now. Give me just a sec. I'm going to get through this here. Aaron, let's fire Olaf after a match he didn't coach. You know what? I'm going to say this. I did have time to listen to the press conference after the game, which I guess as Rudin, I don't know if he just doesn't speak enough English or he just didn't feel comfortable. But have you seen him? He doesn't look like a guy that's, like a real media starlet. So Olaf took the press conference, and it was kind of an interesting outside looking in perspective on the club. And I could kind of hear Olaf getting frustrated about the injuries, which we got two more. in training. Yeah, Durkin's got a knee, and Giannis Horn crossing the ball picked up an injury in training. At this point, if Jared Phillips is not fucking unemployed this time in 48 hours, he need. I'm backtracking a little bit. He better be fucking fired in 48 hours, though. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Hi, Angie. Hello. Yeah. Kane, the one that goes to the games, cannot articulate his thoughts very well. I can't articulate my thoughts very well right now. I'm kind of struggling at the moment right now just to find the words at this point. I'm going to need some help on this. So I'm calling off the bench from the River City Ramble, the cave-dwelling hooligan himself, Sean Campbell. And
Hello, folks. It's all my fault.
No, it is not all your fault.
I'm the reason the derby is as big as it is.
It is Dr. Jared Phillips' fault at this point because we can't have healthy players on this team.
Honestly, at this point, the amount of times we've had players, regardless of what injury they've encountered, the amount of times we've had players get injured in practice and in training.
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice. Not a game. We're talking about practice. The amount of times we've had players injured in training is concerning. At the very least, at the bare minimum, it's concerning. And and I don't know who to blame. I don't know who actually writes what training drills they run through each day, but it's whoever writes the training regimen is obviously doing it in such a way that players are getting hurt. And maybe it's, whoever tells them how hard they're supposed to go. Maybe they're expecting the players to go harder in training than they're supposed to. And
the thing is with Giannis Horn, Olaf said that he got hurt crossing the ball. Like, it wasn't even any sort of great exertion, but I do wonder, Sean, because we've had so many injuries on our back line that there have been times where I have watched Giannis Horn, and the guy is I watched him this past Saturday, and he had a good game, but he was gassed when he was pulled out, and I'm just wondering if this is just pure wear and tear at this point.
I mean, you can argue wear and tear all you want. Sometimes players are just gonna get hurt. Sometimes it just happens. I'm not saying that's the argument here. That's not saying that that's the entire reason. It's not just happenstance. You see enough players get hurt in training, it becomes a pattern. And correlation does not imply causation. I went to school for psych. That's the first thing they tell you every single time is correlation does not mean causation. However, when you see enough of it, you start asking questions. And I've been asking questions for a long time now, for about a year now. Because guys that had muscle injuries that probably would be like ballpark 4 to 6 weeks, took 8 weeks to come back. I'm wondering what's happening at that point. If you're not wondering why it's taking a guy that would normally on any other team take 4 weeks to be back on the field or on the pitch, he's taking 6 weeks. I get, taking the kid gloves to people when they're hurt, but if it's supposed to take 4 to 6, but they're out ballpark 8 to 10, questions are gonna start happening.
Well, there is good news on the injury front. Henry Kessler's back. We got to see him come in late in the game. Not for Josh Yarrow or Kyle Hebert, because apparently those two are immortal. He came in for Timo Baumgartel, who probably is the better defender of the three, but what do I know?
He should have come on for Yarrow in this game, honestly. Hebert,
and Yarrow didn't even
Hebert as a center back. amazing.
He
Not
was fine
amazing,
tonight.
but great.
He was fine
Hebert
tonight.
as a center back, great. Yaro is probably the one I would sub out of the three of them, specifically based off of how they played tonight.
Yeah,
Specifically how
and
they
honestly,
played tonight.
and Yaro was not responsible directly for the 2 goals. That was one of Kill Watts, who blew his assignment both times. In fact, let's go ahead and I'm gonna replay for you the 2 SKC goals for you here. Let me go ahead and get to present. And I see another guest in the green room. I'm gonna bring you on in just a moment. I'm sorry that scarf is still hideous though, but we'll get there. By the way, before I do, I'm remiss because we have 2 new members of the Zombie Ultras tonight. Drew from Peoria City, part-time picks. Thank you very much, Drew. And also Colin Bosler, who I meant to click on and I clicked something else. There you go, Colin Bosler. Thank you so much, guys. That is a couple of pints for me tonight, which I might need after this. Although I do have to go to work tomorrow, and
you probably need more than 2 pints after this match.
I mean, honestly. I'm about 3 in at this point, but yeah,
you need 2 extra on top of what you drank at the game. Is what I'm saying.
And Cat Uncle, normally I would be all for the Josh Yaro slander, but Yaro wasn't getting lazy. I think Yaro was getting tired.
It wasn't Yaro tonight.
It was not Yaro. Yaro. I mean, and there were a lot of fans in my part of the supporter section that were getting on Yaro's ass, and I had to kind of turn around. And it's like it's not Yaro tonight, guys. It's not. I mean, it's. I would have to like watch the game back and like deeply analyze him, but like to me, nothing really stood out bad from him tonight. But let's go ahead and get this pulled up here. There we go. All right. This is in the 70th minute. Here we go.
The first goal.
Oops. Hang on. Let me mute that because that'll get me striked. Going back. Here we go. Header, ding. Look. Okay. Go back. Akil Watts right here. Let's watch right here. So header goes in here, goes to him. Now Yaro can't do anything about that. That's Yaro right here. He can't really do anything about that. He's
already doing his.
He's
best.
where he needs to be. He's between the player and the goal. That's where he needs to be. Here's Watts. Watts, look where he's looking. Look where he's looking. Right at the ball. He is doing some great ball watching right here, folks. Meanwhile, coming in the back door. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then Berkey's not God, so he's not stopping that. Sean?
I do want to say, I'm not saying it's not on Watts here. However, he does have to keep an eye on the ball to see where it's going to deflect. You know, I'm playing devil's advocate for
yes, you are
for a moment.
You're doing a good job.
I'm not saying Watts is not at fault here, but he has to keep an eye on the ball to figure out where it's going to go. And he just misreads it.
Yeah.
Is it his fault? Not inherently. It's not like he clearly made a bad play. What he's supposed to do, I think he made the decision he's supposed to make. Granted, he gets scored on. That's what happens here. Because if we watch it through, ball comes in, header. You know, the guy behind him, he's at that point.
I mean, credit
at that
where
point,
credit
the ball is going across him, so he's supposed to keep an eye on the ball so he knows where it's going. At that point, so he
look
turns
where Watts'
his
head is. Look where Watts' head is. Look where he's looking.
Looking at the ball. Yeah.
And then look. Well, no, he's not even looking at the ball. So. Oh no, he is. Never mind. That was my depth perception sucks. He was.
There is nothing on pure perception from a fan's perspective telling him he should have avoided that ball altogether and stepped back.
Yeah.
And I get it. Hindsight's 2020. I get that. As a defender, though, I see the ball and I assume that someone coming from outside is going to be, marked or manned by the guy out wide. However, I'm not saying it's not on Watts. I'm just saying, you can't put that goal on him.
We're going to bring in Jeremy Clements of the Top Corner podcast. Also,
Jeremy, what do you say?
Writer for Lighthouse Media. And Jeremy, your thoughts?
Well, I'll say this. It wasn't just in that moment that City was getting caught in those white spaces. Even if you go back in the first half, there were several occasions where Sporting was getting in behind in the wide areas and getting into those dangerous moments. We just were able to recover and close them down in a better way than we did in that moment. I mean, they outshot us 11-6 in the first half. Basically, our XG was 2-1 in the first half in favor of SKC. We had a little luck for the first time this season, and we screwed the pooch on it in the second half.
Yeah.
But honestly, at the same time, most of the if you're gonna look at the whole game, the first half, most of Sporting's attempts were toothless. Honestly, they didn't really test Berkey. They really shot a lot outside of the net. This was really the first time that Berkey was tested, and I mean, sure, Watts got turned over. Excuse me, but at the same time, I hate to say it, I really do. I think this was just a well-designed play.
And credit where credit's due.
A well-executed play.
Well, credit where credit's due. That header to past Watts was sublime.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was just that Watts made a mistake. I think he was just outplayed, and sometimes that's just the way things go, especially in this league. You just get outplayed. Well, I think that was what needs to be understood on this goal specifically, is we were outplayed.
And Grant's got it here. If Watts stays in the passing lane, he doesn't need to watch the ball. He knows the ball is going center. He needs to turn and face his man as soon as he lays it off. I'm kind of with you on that, Grant. I am, and Watts just needs to do a better job tracking. But to be fair, as I said, that was a very nice header. That was a very nice setup, to be fair.
It was a very quick bang play. There really wasn't much else Watts could have done, unless he literally was perfectly taking steps. Like, hindsight's 2020 again, but I'm not saying Watts was at fault for this, but at the same time, he probably could have done something better. But as a defender, I don't think we expect Watts to be a defender.
Yeah.
No, we don't have a real defensive-minded replacement on the right side unless you're gonna play Hebert on that side and play Vollum as the left back. Like that's the defense. That's what I expected in this game. I thought we would try to shut down Shalloway on the left and play Hebert as the defensive winger on the right. But my question for you is this, gentlemen. And this is not meant to be apologetic, but I think, Tom, you opened your show by talking about how many minutes Josh Yaro has played, right? And Kyle Hebert. Akil Watts has played a lot of minutes, and we that's due to injuries. Tots has been out apparently until tonight. They didn't trust Zielinski. How much of this is down to fatigue, right? I mean, because I'll give credit to Matt Baker. He did post on X 11 of the last 14 goals that City has allowed have been after the 60-minute mark.
I think it's valid.
There. Yeah,
I think it's very valid, and I don't think it's necessarily just comes down to training. I think it's a depth issue, and I think and there is a case that when you are physically beaten down, that's when you open yourself up to injuries. I mean, we're not at the training grounds. We're not we're not watching the practices. So I can't sit here with a straight face and tell you whether or not these players are being run too hard in practice or, if we should change the regimen, because I'm not there. I don't know. The only thing that I see, and this is something that credit Matt Baker for asking the hard questions about the injuries, to Olaf tonight. And Olaf actually was, I thought he was actually pretty pragmatic about it. Even though, as Aaron points out, Olaf said no pattern to these injuries, but as Aaron points out, a lot of these seem to happen the day before. So why are we riding these players so hard 24 hours before a match?
I think at that point it becomes less of a question of, why are we riding them so hard, and more of when are these injuries happening? Because you could absolutely have someone be in training on Monday and take a knock, but you don't have to announce anything until late into the week. They could show up and still quote unquote participate.
But I feel in the when they have announced practice injuries, like Berkey was they said that was the day before the game. Horn day before the game. Durkin day before the. I mean, they have been pretty forthright about when these injuries are happening.
But I and this is not to discredit. I'm just asking.
Oh, sure.
How many of those were actually committed the day before? Because we saw Berkey in training. And then in training the day before, that's when he left because he broke his hand. I don't know. I don't know how many of those injuries were. Oh, he left training this day on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, or they just don't say anything until Friday.
Yeah,
and that's getting. I'm sure that's going to get too into the weeds about it, but either way, the fact that we have a lot of starting caliber players getting hurt on a regular basis is the question here. And why are we not changing our standards on the way we're doing training? That's the big question.
And not only that, but look, we're coming into a summer window where it's obvious we're going to need to have some reinforcements come in. I'm sure. I mean, besides Jean De Silva, I've heard that they wanted to do more business, before the winter deadline closed. But if I am a prospective soccer player at any level, and I hear there's interest in my services from St. Louis City, and I read the stories about how players keep getting injured. Am I going to want to come to St. Louis? I mean, because I mean, soccer is a bit of a fraternity. Like we know that like Giannis Horn, Marcel Hartl, Cedric Toyshirt, Edouard Leuven, they all kind of get on, off the pitch. Toykert. Well,
sorry, I'm just
tomato.
He made it known to the media.
It is Toykert.
He prefers Toykert.
Okay, and technically it's like Toy Cut. It's like, but we're American. We don't say it like that.
Right, but
Toykert, yeah. But like we know that the players communicate and they talk to each other, and like St. Louis, if it's not already a hard sell because it's in the Midwest and because it feels like the devil's armpit in August, you have these injuries racking up. That to me is a red flag, guys.
Yeah, it's absolutely a red flag. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. What the hell are we doing? I mean, you've rattled off the injury list, and you forgot. I'll add Kessler to it. Remember, I think he pulled his hammy in training before.
Kessler was on the bench tonight, though.
And he played.
Right. Well, he played.
Yeah.
No, and so it was great, and it was nice. I wonder, he probably was on a minutes restriction, so you're not going to see him.
You got to work his fitness up.
But he'll be 60 next match.
But you're talking about Watts being tired. Zielinski didn't feature against who did we play at the weekend? I forget.
You didn't. Well, he did. He didn't play against
He got the goal against Omaha, but he didn't play at the weekend in the last match.
Who did we even play this past weekend? I'm blanking.
It was San Diego.
San Diego, thanks. That's why I was blanking.
Yeah.
I brain-holed it because it was a bad match, but at the same time, I have to be able to withdraw it. It was San Diego.
Yeah.
It was our home leg against San Diego, and they beat us at home.
Yeah.
That was not okay.
So my point being is Zielinski's available. Do you not is it a matter of trust with these guys? Is
Yes.
that the bigger problem?
I think that totally is. I mean, because Thomas Totland, and I think I'm saying that right now. I called him Totland,
Thomas Totland,
but it is Totland, like tater tots. He's gone, and so we've had an emergency at right wing back, and you have a right wing back on your roster in Joey Zielinski, and you're not even giving him a chance? That to me is mind-blowing. We have a catastrophe going on in center mid right now where we just don't have bodies. We had Xande Silva playing the 6 on Saturday against San Diego because we literally had no one else, and apparently Olaf decided that Marcel Hartl suddenly can play center mid now. So, he should have flip-flopped those two is what I'm trying to say. But then you have Jake Girdwood Reich, who he, threw, a bag of money, to Sydney FC for, last year, and we're not playing him either. So, what's the issue with Girdwood Reich? Is he just not impressing Olaf? Is he not as advertised? I'm really I'm getting a vibe, guys, that Olaf definitely has his favorites already. Akil Watts is a favorite. Kyle Hebert is a favorite. Those are two examples. And for whatever reason, Joey Zielinski and Jake Girdwood Reich are just not doing it for Olaf. And because of that, even when we have this roster crisis, it takes something like today when we've played, this is, match, gosh, isn't like 4 matches in like a little over a week. Like it's something absurd. You need something absurd like this, and then Horn and Durkin going down in injury for them to even get minutes. It's a problem. It's a problem with trust, and maybe it's on the players themselves. Maybe they're just not impressing in practice. But again, Sean, what were we talking about earlier? We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice, but at
not
the same time, not a game. We talk about practice.
Hold on. Practice doesn't matter. Olaf can sit there and talk about guys practicing or not being in practice. How many weeks did we see Miggy Perez in training all week and not even making the bench or just riding the bench?
This year, last year, or the first year? Because this year, I don't think I've ever seen Miggy in practice.
You're right. Well, no, he was up with he'd been up training, but he hasn't been called up to the match day squad. I think he might have had one, but my point is, they're like, I understand City's protective of the youth, and Dale Shilley talked about it on the last episode of the City Voice. But when you're in a midfield crisis, Leuven's away, Morales is out, you're forcing round pegs into square holes everywhere.
Yeah.
What are we doing? I don't understand it.
No, Miggy needs his chance. And yeah. I honestly think of all of the young midfielders we have, because we've got a lot at the U18, U17 level. Miggy has earned his spot more than any of them, and he should be given a chance because he literally, in that first season, played an MLS game. The next week, graduated high school, and then the week after, played again in another MLS game. Yeah. So literally, he played games before he graduated high school, and I'm not saying he was amazing, but he performed, and he showed up.
Yeah.
I think it's time we give him a shot as being the true 6 of that, because I mean, as we saw tonight, there's no way we're abandoning that back 5. There's no way. No. We played Celio as the MLS as the Apple TV broadcast announced. Celio was the wide left back, was the left wing back.
Kind
of.
Yeah.
He played further forward.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
there were a lot of times where it felt like just Hebert was just a left back, at times.
Yes. He was labeled as left center, but he played left back.
Right. Yeah. By the way, first of all, on Miggy, a couple of people in the chat calling for more Miggy time. And I know the explanation in 2023 was, well, Miggy wasn't ready. He shouldn't have had that playing time, but we had all these injuries. Have you seen our roster lately? Have you seen our roster lately?
The only excuse we didn't have Miggy in 2024 was because he had that broken foot that he had to have surgery on.
Yeah.
Well,
and then we loaned him out.
We loaned Miggy to Birmingham, and he didn't get a lot of playing time there because he didn't impress there, and also Birmingham's kind of a hot mess.
Of a broken ankle. Of course, he's not going to impress.
No, he's not. No. But there was another call, someone mentioning, where's Michael Wenzel been? Cat on Glass.
Wenzel was on the bench tonight.
Why Wenzel was he's always on the bench. His ass is rooted to the bench. Apparently, Jeremy, you pointed out that Wenzel does not have fitness. He's been off and on. So what's going on there?
That's what we're told. Is is it a case of re-aggravating injuries at training constantly with him? Because that's sure what it sounds like. Because I don't think he's featured much, if at all, at City 2.
Well, he's been selected.
Right. Yeah. He's been. I mean, but is he just that extra emergency body you throw on? God forbid you have a sub somewhere that you absolutely have to make. That's almost what it sounds like, but it means no faith. But I have a question for both of you, though. We were talking about Tots earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tom, you brought up the transfer window. Going in, let's rewind. If we go back into the winter window, we knew Olaf was coming in January. We knew that he was presumably going to play a back five, or at least that's what we saw in the preseason. So we had from preseason February on and we know that we're thin there. We knew that then. Granted, we don't know all the business they tried. Why did we not bring in depth? We talk about center backs. Great. We have 7 of them. What are we doing there?
Well, a couple people pointed this out. We have Tyson Pierce. Tyson Pierce, I get he's young. I get he's not fully proven yet. But if we're making the calls for Miggy to play, we should be making the calls for Tyson Pierce to play as well. And sometimes all a player just needs is a chance. But yeah, I saw you guys in the chat.
I do want to say, though, how late into the preseason did we really bring in Olaf? Because we brought in Olaf we announced Olaf in late January, early February, right before preseason started. If we had gotten someone earlier, it could have been more of a discussion on tactics or whatever, and figured out that
Olaf was announced on November 26th.
Oh, so he was okay.
He was here.
So I misremembered that. Either way, though, I don't know. There's something about announcing the coach and not having a conversation with the players that seems to come to mind. Like, so it seems the way that we're playing now seems to admit that we weren't telling any of them anything until they showed up to camp in late January, early February. Okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then let's use Olaf's words to interpret the situation. Multiple times this season, he has said, we play the way we play because of what we have in the team. Mm-hmm. So he knew what he was coming into because remember, he watched all of our games. He was an expert on City, right? That's what he said.
He watched everything, apparently.
Yeah.
So, apparently, quote unquote.
So then again, if he's coming in knowing this, why are we trying something that we don't even look on most weekends? It seems like we don't have the players to do, at least not for 90 minutes anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the spots where we don't have the players to go 90 minutes, he doesn't sub those spots.
No.
He subs something different.
Yeah. By the way, and also, once again, today is an example, and I know we were up 2-0 at halftime. I know things were looking positive. Everyone was there was a cautious optimism in the North End, at halftime because, we were leading. It was cool. We were getting goals, but you just had this kind of foreboding feeling that we could let this one slip away.
That the other shoe was going to drop.
The other shoe was going to drop because we were out XG'd in the first half. Dale Shilley on the post-game show said that our XG was 0.1. at the half, and I think by then KC had an XG close to 1, I believe. And to me, that's kind of felt that way because there was times when I was looking over at Mike because me, Mike, and Mason were together, and I looked over at Mike, and it's like, when was the last time that we had the ball? Because it felt that for the middle chunk of that first half, KC was owning the ball. And then on the flip side of that, as Ryan Fraley points out, we overthink on attack, and our attack just wasn't working today. And Brian Foley brings this up as well. Seti was invisible to him. I made the point earlier that Seti, again, it's not for a lack of effort with him, but I said earlier that it felt like he and Watts were having a competition on who could complete the least amount of passes today. Let's face it, the Seti goal is an absolutely just
it was a gift.
Freak
it was
log.
A gift.
And it hides the fact that I would have probably still put him in bad if I was having rankings, just because, and not to mention that that the ball that he hit into the north end in the first half, It went way over where I was. I was in the 5th row. I think that landed in the 11th row. That's how bad he shivved it. Our attack still is not at a point where I'm even remotely confident in it right now, and it's mid-May. And that's an area where we haven't been hurt. We have Celio back. We have Toy Shirt. We have Hartle. We have Klaus. We have Betcher. God, where the hell's Betcher been? He misses an absolute sitter in the second half. He's been pretty atrocious. I'm trying to. Believe it or not, Sean, I know you're kind of Mr. Positivity of this emergency live stream here. I'm really, really trying hard to think of some sort of silver lining or positive from today. Besides the fact that Celio, he can still hit it from outside the box against Kansas because he loves that. But I'm still not seeing a positive trend, guys, with our offense.
See, I have to say, as designated Mr. Positive tonight, apparently, Celio scored. There were a couple of chances, specifically one in the first half, where Klaus put a ball forward and Celio was well behind Klaus when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the ball just kind of went out. And I made note of that in the River City Ramble Discord, that normally Celio makes that run.
Yeah.
Normally he makes that run. This was the one time where usually he's in front of Klaus when he makes that run. He was behind Klaus when Klaus makes that pass because Klaus assumed Celio was making that run. Mm-hmm. Celio was not already making that run. That was the one time the two Brazilians were not on the same page. It's very rare. However, Celio is arguably not even arguably, Celio was the best rated offensive player on our team tonight. 100%. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. Celio was the best rated offensive player for City tonight.
Actually, FOTMOB disagrees. They had Ostrak as the best
FOTMOB doesn't matter. FOTMOB doesn't matter.
Ostrak was good tonight, though.
Also, Ostrak is midfield. Ostrak plays as an 8 at best, usually as a 6.
And you don't want him being a 6.
I honestly, if he plays a 6 and like he was supposed to tonight and gets that rating from FOTMOB, I don't care. Honestly, the two best players outside of Berkey, because Berkey is infallible at this point, the two best players on our squad tonight were Celio and Ostrak.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any disagreement with me?
Well,
those two were the two best players on our squad from 0 to 90.
I agree with Brian that Ostrak was man of the match for me, and part of the reason, and Aaron pointed this out, and I agree, Celio late in the game, clearly number 93 for KC, was rooted in his head, and Celio got taken out of the game trying to chirp back, and his head was so taken out of the game that Berkey himself has to run up the field and kind of like separate everyone. And this isn't stoppage time when the embers are literally burning out, and we need to be countering and trying to generate something, and instead we are letting KC live rent-free in our heads.
It was great for the first 70, but once you hit 80, you gotta stop pulling that stuff.
Yeah,
because you're right. Excuse me. Celio started focusing on I cannot remember the player's name. Actually, let me pull it up. I know I have it pulled up.
Yeah. I will say, while you're looking that up, Chris pointed out that Dale Schilly thought that Timo was his man of the match. And I thought Timo was good, but Dale also had some very... I don't always agree with Dale. I mean, Dale's a great academy coach, and trust me, I respect the hell out of Dale, but he was... I don't know if you guys listened to the Y98 post game, but there was some things that I just kind of like, Dale, you're clearly an employee of the club and you're being nice, but like... So seriously.
So go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
You go first. You go first.
So you mentioned, I just want to throw a couple numbers at you because I've been listening, but also looking up some stats as I've had a couple minutes here. So you talked about Klaus and Teukert, right? And I'm probably still butchering that wrong, but anyway.
No, Teukert is actually the way he prefers.
Okay.
They announced that on the Apple TV broadcast.
Okay.
That,
I'm trying to get that in my head because I've always been done Teukert. So Teukert. Okay. So those two combined for 38 touches, which to me screams we continue to have a service problem for our strikers. We had 17 total touches in the box, by the way, so we're not getting them the ball. So then I said, okay, well, where are we trying to get the ball to our strikers? 79% of our attack in the final third of passes into the box came from the wide spaces. Not 21% in the middle, 79% combined between the right and the left. So it means we're crossing the ball into the box a lot. Would you like to know how many crosses we completed tonight? You can count it pretty quickly. A single one. We were 1 of 17 on crosses, and I bet you won't guess who had the only completed credited
was
cross.
It Watts?
Mob.
Was it Watts?
No, it wasn't. It was Tom's favorite.
It was Yarrow.
It was Yarrow. Yarrow had was 1 for 1 in crosses. Nobody else got credited for a complete cross on the night. So,
oh my god.
That is the quick stat and my takeaway.
I didn't think Yarrow was the problem tonight, so I will say for me tonight.
I will say, as far as crosses go, I did notice a lot of them were overcooked.
Yeah.
There were multiple times where I made note in the River City Ramble Discord where it's like, oh, that cross was overcooked. It's and I even made notice at halftime, where we were already up 2-0. I said, all right, look for, with their center back already being on a yellow card, look for a lot more crosses to Klaus. We're going to build up wide and put it to Klaus because one of the center backs is already on a yellow card. That makes it difficult for him to actually challenge. And that's the obvious strategy. Like, I don't care if you can see that and you can defend against it. You still have a center back on a yellow card. So you have to put the other one on the striker. And the striker is honestly, Klaus is better than both of their center backs. It just is a matter of placement of the ball. So it just frustrates me. Honestly, it frustrates me. And a lot of it is also because I used to be a Sporting fan, and the team that I see now from Sporting is, yes, boo me all you want, Tom, but the team I see now coming out of Kansas is so much worse than what I saw when I was a fan of them. I'm at a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a tipping point, but like I'm at a point where I can't hate them anymore, but they frustrate me enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. By the way, there are 50 of you people watching right now, and first of all, thank you guys, because we need to talk this out. Second of all, if you guys could hit the like button on this video, that would really help this channel out. I do appreciate that.
Do not forget the River City Ramble.
Oh, of course,
the River City Ramble. Reason for this derby.
Yes, literally. Yeah. So someone in the chat, Ryan, saying that most of the fan base wants Yarrow run out of town on a rail. It's more than the players at this point. And Kayla kind of clarifies that most of the fan base wants Yarrow, Olaf, Lutz, and Diego ran out of town. So I saw Chat City Tactics posted on the Hell site tonight that since Diego took over in his current capacity with St. Louis City, the club has a 26% winning percentage.
I do want to ask, when did he take over? Give me a date, if possible.
I need to pull up the posting on that. But the reason I bring him up is that, I mean, we've heard Olaf out, Lutz out. One thing that we have to clarify with how this club is structured is Diego's not just the business guy. I think he was kind of painted as that when he was hired, but he is effectively the number 2 in this organization behind Carolyn.
So what I hear is he is
above Lutz.
So he is the PV,
essentially, and
as best as we can get.
And from what I have, and just from things that I have heard, he has had a say in personnel and roster decisions. And it is speculated that Olaf was a Diego hire. That's just what I have heard. Behind closed doors. But the fact of the matter is, the reason we're talking about Diego is because since he has taken over, this club has lost its identity. We sacked Carnell. We didn't retain Hackworth as head coach, and we seem to recruit players to play a system that's just completely incompatible with Olaf Melberg. So I made the comment that if we get a bad result against Kansas, everything needs to burn. I still, and I say that metaphorically, not like don't go out and like burn cars and couches and tires and stuff like that. We're not Vancouver after the Canucks lose in the playoffs. I still think we're hitting a point right now where we have completely lost our identity as a club. We have allowed Kansas to beat us and draw us this year and draw us in our own stadium. We are now 9 in a row winless, which, remember when we were laughing at Kansas for being 9 in a row winless,
they hit 14.
It ended up being 14, and when they hit 14, you know what they did? Vermes out.
Yeah,
happened. It actually happened, and people thought that he was the immovable object in Kansas City. And Sporting KC had more temerity to make a change than at this point I'm seeing from St. Louis City. I think we need to see some changes. It is and look, I put Lutz in the same category as Bradley Carnell in that, yes, what he brought to us in 2013 was great. It's a remarkable season. And yes, Lutz has made good moves. And yeah, we have had to kind of fight an uphill battle with our roster and our tactics and everything because we are the new kids on the block. We are the expansion club. But I think after today, the expiration date has passed for not just Lutz, but for Diego and others. What do you guys think?
Well, I have to say, I think So today was a must win. Regardless of whether it was a derby or not, today was a must win. And we lost.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, we drew, quote unquote.
But we lost a 2-0 lead.
Exactly. We should have won this game, and anything other than that should be considered as a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. We lost. Sure, we got a point, but we lost. And I think a lot of that needs to be drawn back to not necessarily the player positioning and the player acquisition or anything like that. I think we started probably one of the best 11 we've seen in a long time, because we saw Celio finally start, and he's one of our most exciting players and really can change games. As we saw where he got Suleimanov very much off his game. What the difference maker is that originally we got into halftime with the assistant coach being the head coach and supposedly following Mellberg's plan, because he's followed Mellberg all across the planet. However, things got a little different in the second half, and you got to question, would Mellberg have made different subs? And that's a whole different thing. It's not on Mellberg. It's not on the players. The players are playing as best they can. Mellberg is using the players as best he can. I think where it comes in is you got to question from the top down. And it's not Carolyn Kindlebats, because she's just putting the money in. It's Lutz and it's Diego, because they are the two that make the biggest decisions in this club. And I said before this game, if we don't get 3 points, seats are going to get warm, if not warmer. And I think those two are the warmest right now. And is Diego and Lutz. I think it's more on Diego, because I think Lutz had a backup plan, and then Diego came in and things changed. Mm-hmm. And so Lutz didn't quite have a backup plan for that.
Yeah. And there's also the danger of seats being empty at Energizer Park, as they announced tonight was a sellout. It was not. There were box office tickets available 3 minutes before kickoff. I checked. But I guess maybe there's some sort of if it's like 99% sold out, or like whatever the percentage was, maybe you can still call it a sell. I don't know. It's above me. But Chris Gebhardt, St. Louis Soccer, STLsoccernews.com. By the way, I actually got 2 goals in the charity challenge. So I think I'm finally, out of the wooden spoon race at this point. Although I don't know. I probably
don't think you're higher than Mason, though. Mason's done pretty well, apparently.
Poor Mason. Although I did not get the goal scorer, because I continued to have misplaced faith in Joao Klaus. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Welcome to my world. Same boat, buddy. 2 goals. Yeah. Pick Klaus.
Of course. We're great.
So I just took a peek at the table. After tonight's result, we are tied for 13th. We're 5 points out of the playoff race right now.
Yeah,
we are
doable. Fixable.
We're through 13 games. We have 21 league games left, with a trip to Minnesota coming up at the weekend. We're probably, I would assume, staying in Minnesota for the Open Cup game on Wednesday.
We should.
Then a trip to Colorado before closing out the month of May with a home tilt against San Jose. Mm-hmm. So here's my question for both of you. We obviously all agree that some kind of change needs to happen, whether it's tactics, whether it's a coach, whether it's Lutz. But I question the timing. Does doing it now do something beneficial to get us on the right foot for the Open Cup? Because for me, I'm almost to the point of saying, you know what? All my cards are on the Open Cup hunt at this time.
You're not the only one that said that tonight. I talked to Pat Houlihan after the game, a long time, St. Louis, back to the SDLFC days. And actually, I got another statement from the Louligans as well. I got to bring to you here, but Pat's of the belief that at this point we should be all in on the Open Cup at this point, because it just feels like this regular season is slipping away from us. Even though we are 5 points back, I'm just not. I just don't have a lot of faith in it. We do have a tall task though at Minnesota next Wednesday in the Open Cup. Might be too tall of a task, especially seeing as where you got all this fixture congestion going on right now. But I agree with you, Jeremy. I think we should at this point. Let's just focus on the Open Cup at this point. But I'm going to go back to Chris Gebhardt's comment here real quick. He says there's a real danger for this fan base to fall into apathy, which is honestly worse than an upset fan base. And honestly, you haven't noticed much screaming from me tonight. You haven't noticed much screaming from me tonight as I have in past days, because you know what? I'm kind of getting numb at this point, and that's dangerous. But as Chris says, when people get indifferent, that is hard to recover from. Look at the Cardinals situation. I was talking to Brad with the St. Louligans, Bradley DeMunbrun, before the game, and we were just chatting about the current state of things with St. Louis City, and I said like this, it's like this is nothing new for you, Brad, because you endured some the Preki years and the Anthony Pulis years at STLFC, and you've seen the ups and downs, and you've seen a lot of downs with them. And he's like, yeah, but this is worse because this team is not exciting to watch. And it's one thing to be bad, but it's one thing to be bad and unexciting. Now, did we see signs that maybe we could be a little more exciting tonight? Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we did. But we have to watch that with bated breath, because it feels like every time we do try to, add some sizzle on our offense, we leave ourselves exposed in the back. That's a whole nother issue. But I agree with Chris in that I think there is a real danger for this great thing that Carolyn Kindle and company have built to be just another half-empty MLS stadium, that we see around the league. When I went to Nashville, last month or 2 months ago now, it was that was about 18,000 in a 30,000 seat stadium. It looked like a cavern in there. I don't want that for Energizer Park, but it's just kind of we're gonna hit a point pretty soon where you're gonna see season ticket renewals. People are just not gonna renew. We're gonna go through that wait list for My City Plus pretty doggone quickly, I think. I already know as a season ticket holder that actually I don't really sit in my current seats. I get supporter section tickets, and I sell my season tickets to my stepbrother. He hasn't been able to go to the last two games, including tonight. So I know that I'm lucky to get face value for those tickets now. It's just the market bore a lot more in the past couple of years if I've had to sell tickets, which thankfully I sell to my brother at face value. But we're sliding into a malaise right now, and this was our chance tonight to hit the reset button on this whole season. A win against our rivals, Kansas, sets the ship back on the right path. It gets fans interested again. We were in this one. The North End was singing full throat for the first time in a long time tonight because we were leading on Kansas tonight. I looked up at the away section for Kansas, and it was quiet. It was quiet for most of the game, and that's because they had dug themselves a 2-0 hole. And we just did not put boots to throats. And games like this sap a fan base. And now we're not going to be back at Energizer Park until May 31st. We're going to be on the road for a little bit. I think it's and even Daniel points out, we had an issue last week where this week we booed the players off the pitch tonight. Last against San Diego, we were so angry that people were flipping the bird at players, which is not something you should do, and people were chastised about that, and rightfully so. But who would have thought in 2023, when the vibes were so high and we were all for City, literally, 2 years ago, that in 2025, we would be at a point where we are approaching we're becoming the thing that we were laughing at Sporting KC about, for having a half empty stadium and just an apathetic atmosphere. Like, we're not there. And I don't think we're close to that at this point, but the slippery slope is coming. Jeremy, you asked, when is the right time to make these changes? It really depends on where you think that this club can go this season and what it can do. Because remind me, guys, when was Carnell sacked? Was it, I believe it was June, wasn't it?
It was after the loss to Vancouver where they blew a 3-goal lead.
Well, yeah, and we started Marcanic and Nerwinski as our center back pairing. I was jokingly calling them the Levy because
oh my god, I just remembered just how poorly that game played out. Because you mentioned who our center backs were.
And I can verify that game was the breaking point for Lutz to make a change. Rightfully so. That was the right move at the time because as we learned later on, Bradley was losing the locker room. Obviously, Olaf's I don't think he's in danger of losing the locker room necessarily. And to me, I'm advocating for changes even above Olaf at this point. I think the Open Cup match next Wednesday is a pivotal match. It's I thought today could have been a turning point. I think as long as we're in the Open Cup, each match is going to be a potential turning point. Because if we don't have the Open Cup to play for, guys, then what do we have?
What do we have? That means nothing.
Essentially, and you have a coach that specializes in avoiding relegation when we don't have to worry about relegation. So what's
but he's also supposed to be specializing in training and playing the youth, which
wrong.
He's supposed to be though. Am I wrong though? He's supposed to be. That's what we brought him in. Is because that was his hook. He was supposed to be able to play and train the youth, and he's not doing that.
Yeah,
we saw Zielinski start this last game on the bench.
Yeah,
he's not training or playing the youth. He's just doing what he can with what he has. And I don't think at the end of the day this is a problem of the club so much as it's a problem of the league. And that's a different discussion for a different day.
Do we have a different
podcast?
Yeah. That you listen to the River City Ramble because I have a feeling, Sean, you're going to drop a track on that.
I might. We'll talk about it later, and we'll see how it goes. But no, this is not. It's not even like it's a mismanaged club. It is. You are given this amount of talent, and you are supposed to use it in this type of way, and they're trying to do that, but they don't have the proper skill set to adjust it to the way that Olaf wants it to be. And I'm not saying that's Olaf being a bad coach. I'm not saying that's players don't have the skill set. It's we have not spent the money to find that one player that will bridge the gap.
We don't have an X factor on our team right now, and I'm sorry,
the closest we got to that X factor that you're talking about is Jean de Silva, and he's still not starting. Why?
I was expecting
you to. Why is he not starting? Jean de Silva should be starting.
I was expecting you to come back and say Marcel Hartl.
No, Hartl
he's not the guy.
Should actually be an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he scored a ton of goals and got St. Pauli to promotion by playing as the 9. He should be an 8. 100%. He should be playing an 8. Why? Because he has the pace and ability to run back and forth. He can be in the back of the build-up, but also has the finesse to be in the front of the build-up between dual 9s as they want to play.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be dual 9s, but that's how we're playing them, as dual 9s. He can be the in-between of dual 9s. He can also play the defensive ability of being a 6.
Yeah.
Marcel Hartel, his true primary being on this squad should be as an 8. But we're going to continue to employ him as a 10 because he literally scored enough goals to take St. Pauli from Zwei Bundesliga to Bundesliga.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going to play as a 10 when he should be playing as an 8.
So,
and he knows this. He knows this. When he's deployed in that, he does better.
And Justin, before I comment, I just want to point out, when I give Kayla a nod here, we heard all off season long, Jeremy, about how anything less than the playoffs is unacceptable from Carolyn Kindle's lips, from Lutz Pfannenstiel's lips. I'm guessing Olaf said that at some point. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It kind of doesn't matter at that point. But we've heard this rhetoric from this club all off season. And it's one thing to come into a season where like if you're I'm just to use them as an example. Thank God we're not as bad as CF Montreal right now in that situation. But like, does anyone from CF Montreal go into a season expecting anything at this point? Did Sporting KC go into the season expecting anything at this point? No, but our ownership buttered us up all off season. Lutz, was there to hype up his signings, and I really thought that we could have had something special this year. A lot of experts thought we could have had something special this year, Jeremy, and that's the disappointing thing. They have not put their money where their mouth is. In fact, they haven't even put money in towards any players either. That's a whole nother issue. But I think a lot of our anger, Jeremy, comes from the fact that it feels like we were sold a lemon this year.
It's, for all the talk of non-negotiables, we sure don't hold ourselves accountable for meeting those damn non-negotiables, do we? I mean, that's Lutz's favorite thing to say. Losing it, not winning against Kansas is a non-negotiable. Well, we didn't win. Nope. I looked it up. And it took me a minute, but you asked about Bradley Carnell, just to kind of draw a comparison to that scenario. We are now winless in 9 league games. Bradley Carnell had been winless in 9 league games in a row when he was dismissed after the June 29th match in Vancouver. He was dismissed at the end of June and had been winless in 9 previous and lost in some pretty terrible fashion. I mean, tonight feels like a loss. I don't know if it's quite that tipping point, but to your, what you guys have been talking all evening here, it's quickly seems to be approaching that iceberg.
So how long until we hire Jim Curtin? Because Jim Curtin should have been hired in the first
If Jim Curtin didn't want to go to Atlanta United, he's not going to want to come here.
No. I think Jim Curtin he'd prosper better here than he would have at Atlanta.
Probably, but he's got to want to do it.
Yeah, right, and if he wants to do it, then by all means, let him.
So we talk about how bad we are right now. You got to be like Atlanta's even worse. They're on 11 points, just like we are after spending $50 million
and then they sold us Jean Silva.
Right. Which, by the way, going full circle, he was like second or third in passes into the final third tonight. So
he was terrific.
One of your best progressive players in 31 minutes.
They played him in the right position this time. Imagine that.
Right.
Yeah, but he was also riding the bench in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he's earned a start in Minnesota Saturday.
He will start here. He will start here.
I think Toyshirt needs a break. Toykert. Forgive me.
But do you see Betcher get the run out? I mean, Betcher's been a ghost, but do you see Betcher get the run out alongside Silva in the weekend game? So you get, rest Klaus, rest Toykert, rest some of the, your big names if you're going to go all in on the Open Cup. Right.
Well, Romo brings up a good point here. The players need to understand that these rivalry games are extremely important to the fan base. Just not another game to us, the fan. Celio, I think, got that message a little too much tonight.
Hundo P. Yeah,
exactly. It's if they're miffed about hearing us boo them after not getting 3 points against our rivals, they need to understand that this is our rivals. And if they don't, then well, that's a whole nother issue.
Honestly, Tom, it's not just against Kansas. If you blow a 2-goal lead at home, you get booed. I'm sorry, I don't care anymore. I'm done playing nice. I'm done playing happy to have a team fan.
Oh, Jeremy's going to the dark side.
No, I'm for the let's get us some damn results and hold the team accountable when they don't. You have expectations. If you don't meet them, you deserve to hear a boo bird every now and then. I'm not saying flip somebody off or throw something at them, but a boo bird should come out.
No, you're absolutely correct. You should win more of your home matches than you lose. And we are at the point where we're not winning home matches. And also, I think this should be a wake-up call to all fans that we did not win at home against our rivals. That is the biggest wake-up call. We need to be there constantly as best we can. But against our rivals, we need to continue to be there as best we can and properly sell out the stadium.
Yeah. Interesting conversation in the chat about, showing up. Literally, we're talking about, fan apathy. And, Musa Seka, how's it going, Musa? He said he warns us that if we stop going to games, we become what we hate the most. Ryan countering management can also charge less for things, but I think the overall point here, and Ryan brings this up here as well. Not saying it's okay for fans to jump ship, but loyalty is a two-way street. I'm in a situation myself where, look, I bleed City Red. I will bleed City Red till I die. I'm City till I die. I'm City till I die. Anyway,
I'm sure I know I am. I'm sure I am.
I'm sure I am. I'm City till I die. That needs to be a chant, by the way. Where's is Zach in the chats from Florida Noise?
If not, maybe Jeff. Maybe Jeff. Jeff's usually around.
My name is Jeff.
No. Don't be shaming Jeff.
I'm kidding.
I love Jeff. Love him.
Anytime someone brings the name of Jeff, I always think of that scene from
My name is Jeff. Street. No, I'm with you.
But anyway, there are games this year where, because of course, as you guys know, I like to travel and I like to cover, different games for, the channel, but also just because I enjoy traveling. And there have been some games like Club World Cup, for instance. Club World Cup's coming up. There's a couple games in Nashville that I think I might want to see, but they put them right around the St. Louis City game midweek. And I'm kind of starting to wonder do I miss the City game now? And I think there are fans in much less extreme circumstances than I am that are starting to have the question in their head, like, okay, do I go hang out with my buds, on a Saturday night instead of going to Energizer Park? Do I tell my kids, coach that, hey, I know this game comes up, for a city on a City game, or like you're talking about playing games on Saturday nights. Well, maybe I'm open to doing that now, instead of going to City. And that goes back to what Chris Gebhardt was saying about fan apathy. And it's easy to sell a fan base that was so hungry for this club when the club started. Like it's an easy sell. Like it's as a salesperson in the ticketing department, you just had to exist basically to get people to buy tickets in 2023. But when you've lost those fans that were passionate, it is a hard sell to get them to come back. And I know, Musa, what you're saying, fans stay with their clubs, bad, ugly, and worse. And I'm one of those guys where, I'm still going to be diehard for this club, but I'm not everyone. There is American sports fans in general have a bit of a casualness to them compared to soccer fans overseas. It's just the fact. It's just the way it is. That's why you only have 6,000 people show up for Union Omaha, on a school night, on Wednesday night.
On a rainy day,
on a warm, rainy night in St. Louis. And I think there are other factors at play. We're not going to get into how I think that there was a bit of sabotage with that game and ticket sales, but that's a whole nother thing. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, in 2023, same opponent, same round of the Open Cup, we had no problem packing Energizer Park. No problems at all. I think it was, part of it, I think it was a perfect storm because fans had a hard time getting tickets. All of a sudden, hey, here's a game that they can go check out Energizer Park, and tickets are pretty reasonable. Yay. And now it's people have, the people that were interested in a casual matter of checking out Energizer Park, they've checked it out by now. It's done. And the club that plays in that park is just not doing it. So it just, we are running into a problem here. And it's going to be tough to get these. The fans that are having to endure this, like I'm enduring it. You guys are enduring it. A lot of people in the chat are enduring it, but there's a lot of fans that aren't as into this club as we are. And if you lose them, how are you going to get them back? How are you going to get them back? You're going to have to either do the Cardinals thing where you offer tickets for next to nothing. And just promise, hey, it's a fun day at the park. Your whole family can attend for $25 or whatever. I don't think that is what this club wants, especially because they still have to pay off the stadium. So then I guess the only other thing that you can do if your ownership is invest in a winning club. And that starts with taking a look at what's not working right now. And that's where you bring in the front office into question. The architects for what is currently a calamity. Because we're still I don't think we're dead last anymore in spending, but we're not. I think Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, we're probably around mid league in spending at this point.
Yeah, we'll know more later this month when the Players Association puts out its spending documents. So we'll know more then. But yeah, we're somewhere around middle pack of the league in spending. So that I don't think that can be as big of a complaint as it has in the past. So, Tom, you talk about this puzzle and trying to figure out how we're going to get better. I was looking at the schedule and the standings and the table here. We are currently not going to play a team that is not in a playoff spot until the middle of June. We have a month until we play LA Galaxy at home. Every other team that we play before then, Minnesota twice, the Rapids, San Jose, and Portland are all 9th or better in their respective conferences. So it's not going to be any easier in league play or otherwise at this point because it's almost backs against the wall time. And I'm just nervous about how apathetic these fans are because I'm not going to lie, I'm with you. Next weekend we're on the road in Minnesota. No Goal Patrol is doing an event at a movie theater. My girlfriend and I we want to go. We're probably going, but we've started talking we have a friend who has a birthday party. Are we going to do that instead? Because at least that is something that might be more fun or more enjoyable than potentially watching us get railroaded in Minnesota.
Yeah. You've also got a YouTuber that you're talking to right now that's going to do a watch along. So
there you
go. Cheap plug. But
I do have to ask Tom, where are you doing this watch along from?
Here.
Is it just your own home?
I'm going to do it from here. I had talked.
You're not going to do a live one from Second Shift, maybe?
No, the problem. Well, I would do one at Pat Connolly if I did one.
Well, yes, because they are the sponsor.
They are.
Yeah,
if you look,
I understand.
Yeah, right. I can't point. Anyway, it's up there somewhere. There we go. directionally challenged. But the problem that the challenge with doing that live, and it was something I was even talking to Kyle about with the theater this coming Saturday, was that hey, what if I did a watch along from the theater? If I get MLS audio in my live stream, that is a fantastic way for my channel to get a copyright strike. So yeah, when I do my watch alongs, I have an earbud in one of my ears and the game on it, and like through Bluetooth, because otherwise I can't risk that bleeding over. So I'll be home. Like a basic guy for Saturday night, if you guys want to partake. But getting back to the conversation about apathy and losing the fan base, like there's also a good conversation going on. And Ryan, I'm with you on this one. I'd rather have the fans stay and fight. Well, not like fight necessarily, but like rather than being apathetic. Aaron pointing out how he was among the boo birds in the North End. He actually went down to row 1 to boo. I think booing the players is perfectly fine. It's a way to voice displeasure without being overly disrespectful, like, flipping birds. This is disrespectful. It may make you feel better. I think it's an actual like yoga technique or something, like, flipping the bird like actually does like do something psychologically for you, but don't do it at the players. I think there's ways of showing displeasure. And sadly, one of the ways of voicing displeasure, and perhaps maybe the best way, Jeremy, I talked about this with you, before the game. You bought the scarf that they had tonight. I had made the joke, and I think you did as well, that I'm a simp, and I would just, you're pointing it out there, I would probably just reflexively buy that scarf in past years. Tonight, I didn't. Because for one, I didn't like the scarf. That's just me. I was not a big fan of the scarf design. That's me. But the other thing is, it's just that, they haven't earned it from me.
No,
I mean, because that is one of the best ways you can vote in this day and age, is with your wallet. I mean, I spent a lot of money like outside of Energizer Park. Like I bought a $10 scarf from the St. Louigans. It's a great way to support them and what they do. And then I had a pizza from their food truck, before the match. That was money that went to them, not into St. Louis City. I didn't spend a dime inside Energizer Park tonight. And I think unfortunately, I get the argument that, as fans, we should be showing up for the club. But at the same time, if you want to voice your displeasure, the best way to do it is just kind of don't spend money.
Yeah.
That includes that. And that kind of includes tickets. Unless you're a season ticket holder and that's the sunk cost, then that's one thing. But like, don't buy food at the game. Don't buy beverages at the game. Unless, if you got a Yeti cup, you already shouldn't be buying beverages at the game anyway, unless you just want to have an alcoholic beverage. But like, just don't spend money, because they'll get the message, especially with this ownership, because they, again, like I said, God bless them. They paid for that stadium themselves, but they're still paying it off. So like, I'm sure they want to recoup that as quickly as they can. So I'm just saying, it goes back to what I was saying about people deciding to how they spend their time and how they spend their money, and they're going to find other ways of doing that. That's unfortunately kind of one of the ways you have to voice your displeasure, guys. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's business. Whether you stop coming to the games or you stop buying the merch and the other stuff, or either. I mean, I think I'm like, simp is a good word for it when it comes to scarves. I have a collection that's probably not as impressive as what's hanging behind you. That's literally the only reason I was like, all right, you know what? It's different enough from anything I've got. Not crazy about the design, but I'll support the club and buy some merch, but I'm getting to the point of that where unless I love it, I'm not going to buy it. I just don't have. I don't have the willingness and the desire to just go out and spend like I used to.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on there, and I think we're hitting a good ending point here for this chat. I mean, again, sorry guys, I didn't scream and moan and yell and break stuff. I know that's kind of what you guys were looking for, but you kind of hit it there, Jeremy. I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm just kind of getting numb.
I'm done.
That's dangerous. Dangerous.
Where we will follow the team, but like at a point where it's, oh yeah, we'll check once every couple weeks. And the next thing we know, we're like, oh, playoffs are coming up. Where are we in playoffs? We have no chance. We have no chance. That's it. Never mind. Don't pay attention. But that's pretty stereotypical St. Louisan, to be completely honest, because that's the way we always have been. I mean, how many of you actively watched the Blues on a day-to-day basis before they made that run to hit the wild card spot? I did. But that's also because I've been a Blues fan since I was born. Not trying to invalidate anybody. You're allowed to be a Blues fan.
Yeah.
For as long as you have been. But, it's fair to think that a lot of people in St. Louis have thought, oh, wait, no. Blues are good. Time to watch them. They're the same people that go, oh, the Cardinals are in the playoffs? Time to watch them. Same people that go, oh, the Battlehawks?
Mm-hmm.
And it's playoffs? Time to watch Battlehawks.
Yeah.
It's the same person. They only watch playoff sports in St. Louis. And if you're not in playoffs, then you don't matter.
By the way, Sean, I think being Blues fans all our lives have prepared us pretty well to be a City fan.
Yeah. Actually, prepared us better than most. Honestly, the only thing that could have prepared us better would have been being born Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
Oh God! Thank God that didn't happen.
The only team that took longer to win a cup than the Blues are the Maple Leafs, and they're still without a cup. The last time they won the cup was the year before the Blues were created. Everyone else has won a cup since.
Yeah.
The Blues subreddit is notorious in their chats for when something happens, the statement is, this is Blues hockey, right?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for St. Louis City Reddit to become, this is City soccer, because
we're getting to that point.
Oh my God. I hate it. I hate to say this.
I'm sorry, but we're there, aren't we?
No. I hate to say this, but my 3 favorite teams all have a similar situation, and they all very much sound like, this is so Spursy.
Oh no. I
had to say it. City, the way City is working and the way the Blues have been, they're both so Spursy.
I wouldn't know how that feels like because I never walk alone.
Shut the fuck up, you goddamn Liverpudlian. Go away. Let me wallow. Oh my God.
I have no idea what's happening right now. I'm in like 15th place with United, but we play Spurs in the Europa final.
So El Succo.
Okay, y'all have won a trophy in the last 20 years. I have.
You might win another one.
I might have a
and be in the Champions League next year.
But winning that trophy doesn't mean shit.
Can Harry
because
Kane
even if we win that trophy, we're in the Champions League.
Harry Kane can bring his shield. Harry Kane can bring his shield back to White Hart Lane or whatever.
It ain't gonna happen because he's in. That ain't gonna happen because he's in Bayern.
No.
But whatever.
Aaron, I agree. I think now that we have sufficiently gone off the rails,
I'm gonna cry. Please end it, Tom.
If you enjoyed this nice long chat about how our team sucks, please make sure to like this video. And thank you for those that watched this live. And thank you for watching in the future as well. Drop a comment in the future. I'll try to respond to you. And subscribe if you want to hear more bitching and moaning about St. Louis City SC. I really do appreciate your support, including from the Zombie Ultras, who I have to add 2 more names to this because Drew Part-Time Picks, as well as Colin Bosler, signed up tonight for the Zombie Ultras. Thank you so much for that, guys. That really does mean a lot. And of course, thank you to the 99-cent supporter section as well, the OGs, dropping a few coins in the proverbial tin can. Every little bit helps there as well. Want to end this on 2 comments from the chat. First of all, the good thing here is from my buddy Ethan Thornton from the St. Louis City Boys. We are going through it together. We go through the bad times together and rant, and we will celebrate the good times together as well.
Hundo P, agree.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And I have one more comment to get through, but I'm going to have that at the very end because I need to drop a bit of a track here with it. But I want to thank you, Sean Campbell, for joining for this chat from the River City Ramble. I'm sure you and Mason will have another episode out for us before Minnesota, correct?
We're going to try. Likely we'll record on Thursday and put it out on Friday morning.
And Jeremy,
hope and pray.
And Jeremy Clements, Top Corner is always on Monday nights, live at 9 o'clock. You can find them on YouTube. And then you also write for Lighthouse Media, and I think you've got an article probably in the works about tonight, correct?
There will be something up probably sometime tomorrow. Also, maybe a Top Corner stream, still kind of in discussions about maybe something tomorrow night, but we'll see.
Exactly. And I'm going to leave this on this note here. Ryan Fraley pointing something out about racing, but I just want to say that Kenny Wallace, you fucking coward. Have a good night.